Welcome to this explainer. Let's dive right into Module 6 of the ATMP course. Today, we're focusing strictly on the critical foundation of advanced therapy medicinal products: starting materials, raw materials, donor sourcing, and traceability. In this space, your finished therapy is really only as good as what goes into it. So we aren't going to be talking about downstream manufacturing, quality control, or release today. Instead, we're looking exclusively at the upstream supply chain. How do we source our inputs? How do we qualify them? And crucially, how do we track them?
Okay, let's start by recognizing the incredibly high stakes we're dealing with here. Control begins upstream. Qualified inputs and unbroken traceability are absolutely prerequisites for a safe ATMP. Because we're dealing with living, breathing biological inputs, a single upstream paperwork error or even a slight temperature excursion during transport isn't just a logistical hiccup. It is a critical safety event. I mean, when your raw material is a patient's own cells, your control actually has to begin before those cells even reach your facility. So these unbroken chains of traceability, they aren't just nice to haves, they are mandatory. To demystify this complex upstream supply chain, we're going to build our understanding layer by layer. First, defining AMP materials. Second, donor sourcing and rules. Third, raw and single-use materials. And finally, traceability and supply chain.
Let's kick things off with Section 1, defining ATMP materials. Before we can source anything, we need to know exactly what we're looking for.
Think of ATMP inputs in two main buckets. On one side, you have your starting materials. These are your main biological ingredients, literally the matter from which the active substance is derived. On the flip side, we have raw and ancillary materials. These act as processing aids. They're used in manufacturing, and they physically contact the cells. We're talking culture media, cytokines, enzymes, but they aren't actually intended to be part of the final product. Understanding this distinction is huge because how we qualify and treat these two categories is fundamentally different. What's really fascinating here is the sheer variety of starting materials in modern therapeutics. It's not just basic blood draws anymore. For cell therapies, we're dealing with highly variable living inputs like cells and tissues collected directly from patients, which require incredibly strict handling just to keep them viable. But then for gene therapies, your starting materials are often complex biologicals themselves. Think viral vectors like lentivirus or AAV. These vectors are so fragile, and their quality directly dictates the safety and potency of the final therapy. We're also seeing a lot more plasmid DNA, mRNA, and gene editing components. And of course, for consistent manufacturing, we rely on fully characterized master and working cell banks, which literally underpin entire commercial supply chains.
All right, moving on to Section 2, donor sourcing and rules. With our starting materials clearly defined, we've got to transition to the human element. Now, because donor material can very easily transmit infectious agents, international regulatory compliance is totally non-negotiable. You can't just take cells from someone without a heavily regulated process. You have to carefully navigate different frameworks depending on where you are. In Europe, the EU tissue and cell legislation dictates incredibly strict standards for donation, procurement, informed consent, and testing. Meanwhile, over in the US, you're looking at 21 CFR Part 1271 Subpart C, which mandates highly specific requirements for donor screening and communicable disease testing. You've got to determine and document that donor eligibility before those cells are ever used.
But keep in mind, donor eligibility isn't a one-size-fits-all deal. Imagine you're dealing with an autologous therapy, meaning the donors are the patients themselves. The risk profile there changes completely. The patient is just getting their own modified cells back, so while we still test to protect the manufacturing facility and the operators, the dynamics are entirely unique. But if you're sourcing from allogeneic donors, where one healthy person's cells might be used to create therapies for dozens or even hundreds of recipients, wow, the burden of safety shoots way up. That requires incredibly rigorous, comprehensive, full screening to protect a much wider pool of vulnerable patients.
So that brings us to Section 3, raw and single-use materials. We know where the living cells come from, so let's shift our focus to the tools and secondary materials that physically interact with them during processing. When we talk about those ancillary materials, the culture media and enzymes we mentioned earlier, their quality directly impacts the safety and potency of your product. That means research-grade materials carry unacceptably high risks for commercial ATMPs. We always have to strive for the highest practical grade, meaning GMP or pharmacopoeia grade. And honestly, a huge priority here is swapping out risky animal or human-derived items, like serum, which can harbor unpredictable viruses or prions. The ultimate goal is to substitute those with safe, xeno-free, chemically defined alternatives whenever possible.
You've got to check those incoming materials against their specs, review the certificates of analysis, and make sure only officially released materials enter your process. And hey, it's not just the liquids. The physical equipment in ATMP manufacturing relies heavily on single-use systems. Single-use bags, tubing, assemblies, they eliminate the need for cleaning between batches and severely reduce cross-contamination. They are the backbone of closed processing. But here's the catch. A physical breach in a single-use assembly directly threatens the sterility of your entire batch. Because of that, you must meticulously ensure the physical integrity of these items across a 3-step life cycle, right upon receipt from the supplier, during careful installation in the cleanroom, and continuously throughout their actual use.
Finally, let's explore Section 4, Traceability and Supply Chain. We've covered the biological hardware of our therapies, so let's look at the logistical software that ensures this hardware stays safe from the clinic all the way to the cleanroom and back again.
This brings us to a concept you are going to hear constantly in this space: chain of identity, or COI. And I literally cannot stress this enough. Chain of identity isn't just some compliance exercise for an auditor. It is the absolute, uncompromising guarantee that an autologous product gets back to the exact right patient. It relies on unique identifiers assigned right at the moment of collection, which are then verified at multiple critical points. If there's a break in the chain of identity, that's a critical safety event. Giving a patient the wrong autologous therapy is a catastrophic failure.
Now, working hand in hand with COI is the chain of custody, or COC. If identity tells us whose it is, custody tells us where it's been and who has touched it. Chain of custody meticulously records every single transfer, every courier, every storage facility, and every handler. It maintains total transparency across the complex ATMP flow path. If something goes wrong, a solid chain of custody is what enables rapid investigation, recall, and pharmacovigilance.
Executing all of this flawlessly across a global supply chain, it's a monumental task. The ATMP supply chain spans clinics, couriers, and manufacturers, and they all need to operate as one highly coordinated system. Because we're dealing with living materials, this demands validated cold chain and often cryogenic transport with continuous temperature monitoring. We use standardized coding systems, like the EU Single European Code, to make identification reliable and machine-readable, even on tiny little cryovials. Plus, those labels actually have to survive being frozen in liquid nitrogen. On top of all that, regulatory agencies require us to retain these critical records for decades to support long-term patient follow-up. That means you are relying on highly validated electronic systems with absolutely ironclad data integrity.
So as we wrap up this explainer, focusing purely on the module's 6 concepts of sourcing, raw materials, and traceability, I want to leave you with one final essential question. Look at your own processes. With records needing to be retained for decades and highly sensitive living materials crossing the globe through multiple handlers, is your upstream supply chain truly unbroken? It's something you absolutely need to ponder as you design your quality oversight systems. Thanks so much for joining me today, and keep striving for perfection upstream, because honestly, everything else depends on it.